Hey y'all, it's Rick here with Uncommon Communion. And yes, another video. I hope you like them because I know there's been a bunch of them this past week. And I really am anticipating a calmer, quieter, more restful week next week, which will allow me more time and space and energy to do the writing, the written posts. I was going to really try to write today. I mean that. I promise that. I did have a nice evening though. And the evening got me thinking about something really important. And I wanted to share that with you in the thoughts today. Also, Psalm 11, it is a shorter one than Psalm 10 or Psalm 9 that we just encountered. And also in the notes, you'll see I'm including some other things that you might want to take a look at. The poor Bishop Hooper, Psalm 11, Father Ed's writing for the day, and also a look back roughly at where I was, what I was writing about a year ago. So here we go. As we begin, we always begin by recognizing, especially in times of trouble and difficulty and chaos, we are recognizing and realizing and trusting in the reality that we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of the more and each other. So, where I was tonight was somewhere that was really quite enjoyable. It was the opening night of a third year of women's or professional women's volleyball league, WP or PVL. Doesn't exactly roll off the tip of the tongue. I think of PVC, like PVC pipes, etc., but it is PVL. And here in Columbus, we have a team called the Fury, Fury. And this is the logo right here. I should have probably brought the towel and showed that to you instead of pulling my shirt up. But it is a lot of fun to go and see young women play a really high level, easy to follow, fun to cheer for, great vibes in the crowd sport, and I celebrate that and am just really enjoyed being there with my wife and just celebrating that. I couldn't help thinking though, and sometimes I think that is a problem because it seems like there's lots of folks running around who are really not reflective, or maybe they don't put things together, or they don't wonder. And I don't get it because that's kind of what I do, those things, right? And I was looking around, and there were a lot of young women, young girls there, volleyball players from high school down to, probably 10, 11, 12 years old. And of course, the women are playing volleyball on the court. And the game began before the team was introduced with a montage of discrimination against women that really prevented women's sports, especially women's professional sports, from taking hold. And we've seen now in the country women's, professional basketball, WNBA, and there's a women's soccer league, professional league, and professional volleyball, and so forth. And it seems to be, at least in this little intro kind of, teaser hype video, I think is what they call those hype videos, that some of the fury of the Fury, right? Now, of course, Columbus Fury is also named after the Furies, right, from Greek mythology. But this idea of this anger and fury at the injustice that prevented women from, thriving and excelling, being able to excel in sport, right? So I was thinking, as we look at this rising authoritarianism, right, and we think about the liberal democracy, the openness to equality of the sexes, to the growing embrace of people of diverse racial backgrounds and LGBTQ plus folks, and all of that, right? That was being celebrated there tonight, at the game. And I just wonder, like, how many of these folks, around me realize that if we don't do something significant and now to quell this rising authoritarianism, that so much of what we were celebrating will be undone. It is already being undone, right? Money is being cut from women's and opportunities, right? There is this rising traditionalism, this dominant masculinity. Women are to be, baby producers. You're hearing that out there, and as the grotesque use of force continues to rise and grow and take hold, so much of what we were celebrating will be undone. And I was wondering, like, what does that look like? Do these kind of things stop? I mean, climate change is eventually going to impact everything that we do. And I look at these, there were some, like, maybe 10-year-old girls, 12-year-old girls near us. It looked like a volleyball team, right? 15, 20, 30 years from now, when those girls are in their 40s, the world is going to be a different, hotter, more chaotic place. I mean, that's inevitable at this point. So, the luxury, and it is a luxury, of going to a resource heavy um, entertainment like, we went to tonight, that will be a thing of their past, because their future is going to be more bleak. There's just no two ways about that. And it's going to be worse if we don't quell authoritarianism, because part of what's going on with what we're seeing right now is the loss of any sort of progress on the environment. This focus on oil, the scorn of windmills, just so bizarre, so bizarre and dangerous and insane. I mean, that's really what it is. It's insane because it's against all reasonable and all rationality. It's a death wish, and I think that's what we're dealing with. The violence that is being celebrated, this toxic, horrible, unaccountable, um, gleeful looking at the death of this young woman, Renee Good. Um, it just does not bode well for the future of these women, and these women, meaning the ones on the court and around, right? And I wonder where the fury is, to play off of the name. Columbus did have a protest today at the State House. I didn't make it. A friend of mine did, my friend Mark, my protest buddy and soccer friend and hiking friend. Tomorrow, we're going to plan on going for a hike tomorrow, Sunday, when you get this. But, there were about 500 people. And that's great. That's better than zero. But why aren't there 5,000? And that energy that we were seeing at the volleyball match, which, yeah, it's fun, it's entertainment, et cetera, et cetera. Where is the energy to defend our democracy? Where is the energy of the moms and the dads and of those girls to say, we want a different future, we want a better future and not a worse future, because that's where we're heading. you know so just, again, one of those times, it's just that split screen. I've been feeling this all along, maybe some of you have, is, how do we go about business as usual, going to games, watching sports, all of that, when, you know, I mean, the latest story, I mean, it's just one thing after another. They're apparently, the dictator is preparing to invade potentially Iran. I mean, that's insane. It would be absolutely devastating. They fired missiles today at Syria, ISIS, right? I mean, it's absolutely, absolutely insane. Where's the rage? Where's the fury? Right? I don't know. I really don't know. What I do know is I want to share Psalm 11. It's a shorter one today, and in it, God is furious. Grandmother, grandfather. I'm gonna actually, I think, read both grandmother and grandfather together to be able to um, understand that God is all, right? Maybe let's just say grandparent. How about that? How about that? We'll just make a grandparent, right? Great grandmother, grandfather. We'll just say it that way, right? Not two gods, but you get it, right? So Psalm 11 is much shorter. Got some nice nature imagery, and also, again, it sounds like their God is furious, right? And what does God get furious at? Injustice, trampling of those who are the lowly, right? And if God can be furious, why are we not furious, right? So here is Psalm 11. I have put my trust in grandfather, grandmother. How can you say to me, flee to the mountains like a winged one in flight? Take a good look. These bad hearted ones have strung their arrows and bent their bows. They aim to shoot from their dark hiding places at the ones with good hearts. When harmony and balance break down, what can the upright in heart do? Grandfather, grandmother, the all seeing one sits on their seat of honor in their sacred lodge in the spirit world above. Nothing human beings can do can escape their eagle eyes. Grandmother, grandfather knows what is in each heart. Grandfather, grandmother puts both the good-hearted and the bad-hearted to the test. They hate the violent deeds of those who do evil. Like rain from the sky, grandfather, grandmother will send burning coals and fiery rocks down on these doers of evil. A scorching wind will bring to them the bad end they deserve. Grandfather, grandmother always does what is right and loves to set wrongs right again. The ones who do what is right will see the face of the Great Spirit. A couple quick thoughts and then we'll sign off here. I love that question in verse 3. When harmony and balance break down, what can the upright in heart do? Well, we can do what the psalmist does, cry out to grandfather, grandmother, and just, with that cry of how long, right? How long must we do this? And I also think I like that last verse. The ones who do what is right will see the face of the Great Spirit. And again, I think too often we can, sort of say that this is about like eternal salvation, right? That, whoever does good in this life is going to see the face of the Great Spirit in the afterlife, in eternity, right? And, that I believe is indeed accurate. And yet, I think, clearly God cares about this earth. And I think what this is saying is when we do right, when we love, when we are just and kind, when we live the fruits of the Spirit, we see the face of God in the people and the creatures and the life and the planet and the solar system around us. When we do what is right, we are able to recognize the interconnectedness of everything. And we can get furious, righteously furious, when that is violated through cruelty and destruction and so forth. So again, y'all, it is the end of a busy week, tough week, long week for me physically, for us nationally. And I hope as we begin a new week, the second week of January, second full week of January, that that we can take hope and we can continue to hold fast and that we can continue to speak up and speak out and be bold, y'all. Yeah. Let's end by saying God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to do what we can to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not ours, be done. All right, y'all, hold fast. Thank you very much. Be well.